The storm came without warning. One moment, the sky over planet Oran 7 was calm and purple. The next, it exploded with roaring winds, burning lightning, and flying debris. The research ship was thrown across the rocky land like a crushed toy. When the storm finally passed, only 2 people survived: a human engineer and an alien woman. Evan Reeves opened his eyes slowly, coughing out dust. His head ached, and the smell of burnt metal filled his lungs. He pushed himself up and looked around. The ship was destroyed. The communication array was gone. The escape pods were twisted. And the landscape around him had changed completely. Tall violet crystals grew out of the ground like giant claws. Shadows moved inside the fog. The air hummed with strange energy. He checked his suit. Oxygen low. Tools damaged. No signal. He was stranded. Then he heard soft breathing. He turned sharply. Lying beside a broken console was a woman alien, injured and barely conscious. Her skin glowed faint teal under the planet's strange sky. Her hair floated softly as if the air itself carried energy. She had long, elegant markings across her arms that shimmered. She opened her eyes, and fear flashed inside them. Evan raised his hands calmly. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." She trembled, confused and weak. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Human? Yes, and you?" Her lips moved slowly. "My name is Sarai." Her eyes rolled back as she collapsed again. Evan's heartbeat quickened. He knelt beside her, checking her pulse. Weak, but alive. He looked around at the broken ship, the dead consoles, the lifeless crew members. And then at Sarai. "We're the only ones left," he said quietly. The wind howled across the shattered metal, making the silence feel even heavier. A dangerous beginning. Evan lifted Sarai onto his shoulder and carried her out of the wreck before it collapsed. Sparks flew behind him as burning fuel ate through the cabin walls. He placed her on a flat rock, outside, and checked her injuries. Nothing fatal, but she needed rest. Her breathing was shallow, and her skin flickered like dimming lights. He touched her hand. It was cold. "Stay with me," he said softly. She blinked weakly, eyes full of panic. "We are stranded?" she whispered. He nodded. "And we need to move fast. This area isn't safe." A deep growl echoed in the fog. Crai tensed. Evan grabbed a broken metal rod, his only weapon. Blue silhouettes moved in the distance. Large, many predators. "Can you walk?" Evan asked. Sarai tried, but her legs shook violently. She nearly collapsed. Evan caught her gently. "I'll carry you," he said. Her eyes widened in surprise. "You would help me?" Evan gave a tired smile. "Stranded together means we survive together." He lifted her again, and they moved slowly away from the burning ship. Behind them, the blue creatures approached the wreck, sniffing and clawing at the metal scraps. If Evan had stayed a minute longer, they would both be dead. The crystal forest. As they moved deeper into the terrain, Sarai whispered, "Human. What is your name?" "Evan. Engineer, explorer, and apparently, survivor." Despite the danger, Sarai smiled faintly. "You saved my life." Evan shook his head. "I'm trying to save both of us." The land grew stranger with every step. Tall crystal spikes glowed and pulsed. Strange creatures slithered under the sand. The planet's air buzzed with static energy that made Evan's skin crawl. Sarai pointed weakly toward a cave, hidden behind giant glowing vines. "There. Shelter." Evan nodded and carried her inside. The cave was warm and shielded from the storm winds. As he set Sarai on the ground, she winced. "You're hurt," she whispered. "It's nothing," Evan said. Brushing off the blood on his arm, Sarai placed her glowing hand over his wound. Energy rippled across her fingers. Evan jerked in surprise. "What are you?" The pain faded instantly. The cut closed before his eyes. He stared at her in shock. You can heal? She nodded slowly. Only small wounds. My strength is low. Evan looked at her with new respect. Thank you. She smiled weakly. No, thank you. You carried me. Survival and secrets hours passed inside the cave as the storm returned outside. Sarai finally regained some strength. She watched Evan as he worked on a broken transmitter near the fire he built. You do not give up, she said softly. Engineers don't get that option, Evan replied. Either I fix things or we die. Sarai laughed quietly. Her voice echoed like soft chimes. Evan paused, listening. It was the first beautiful sound he had heard since the crash. Then her expression changed. My family thinks humans are weak, she whispered suddenly. Evan raised an eyebrow. Do you think the same? Sarai shook her head slowly. You carried me, protected me, risked your life for me. Humans are not weak. Evan looked away, embarrassed. I just did what anyone with a heart would do. Sarai held his gaze. Not everyone has a heart strong enough to carry a stranger through danger. He didn't answer. He didn't know how. Night of fear as night fell. The temperature dropped sharply. Evan placed his jacket around Sarai's shoulders. You need this more than I do, he said. Sarai touched the jacket with surprise. Humans share warmth? Always, Evan said. A loud scream echoed through the valley. Sarai grabbed Evan's arm tightly. We are being hunted. Evan's eyes narrowed. By what? Sarai's expression darkened. Shadow beasts. They hunt in packs. They smell fear and warm blood. Evan stepped toward the cave entrance, gripping his metal rod. Let them try, he muttered. But the truth was, he was scared. Sarai moved closer, placing her hand on his wrist. You saved me earlier. Now let me help you. Her markings glowed brighter. She whispered something in her language, and a small glowing barrier formed at the cave entrance. Evan stared in awe. You can create shields too? Only small ones, Sarai breathed out weakly. But enough to hide us tonight. Evan sat beside her and looked at her glowing eyes. You're incredible. Sarai blushed, lowering her gaze. You think so? Even though I am alien? Evan smiled warmly. Alien or not, you're strong, brave, and alive. That's what matters. Her cheeks glowed brighter. Nobody ever said such words to me, she whispered. Then they were blind, Evan replied. A bond forged in survival hours passed. The creatures roamed outside, sniffing, growling, but unable to break through the small shield Sarai created. Evan stayed awake, guarding her even when she slept. At dawn, the beasts left. Sarai opened her eyes and saw Evan still sitting beside her, exhausted but alert. You stayed awake all night? She whispered softly. I wasn't leaving you alone, he said. Sarai looked at him with deep emotion, gratitude, warmth, trust. You are different, she whispered. Different from any human or alien I ever met. Evan shrugged. Just doing what I can. No, Sarai said. You saved me from the ship. You carried me. You shared warmth. You protected me. You watched over me. Evan swallowed, unsure how to respond. Sarai placed her hand on his chest gently. Evan, I would not be alive without you. He covered her hand with his, and I wouldn't have survived the night without you either. They looked at each other, breathing slowly, realizing something important. They weren't just stranded anymore. They were partners in survival, maybe something more. Two against a planet. Evan stood. Sarai. Together, we can survive this planet. Sarai nodded, standing with his help. And maybe find a way home. Evan smiled. First step, stay alive. Sarai smiled back, her eyes glowing brighter than the cave light. With you, I believe we can. Behind them, the alien planet hummed with danger and mystery. But inside the cave, A human and an alien were no longer strangers. They were hope. They were strength. They were a team. And as they stepped out into the violet morning light, their real story had just begun.